everybody, to another episode of Agents of MACE. Today, it finally happened. We have concluded, some may even say forever, Moon Knight. I will very quickly say my first thoughts, which are not impressed. There were some moments that I enjoyed, and then basically the whole rest of it was nonsense that just ends. It just ends. So yeah, that's my
nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. This is nonsense once again. So that's my first thoughts.
All right. I'm going to start with a couple of highlights. Well, I will say before that, I was spoiled yet again. I don't know why I stay on Twitter because it's just a dangerous place. Yeah, I like that was like the first thing this morning. I was like, oh man, it's like this is a bummer, but I thought it was still cool. Anyway, highlights. Moon Knight's definitely got some Batman moves.
100%.
That was pretty sweet. We have our first Egyptian superhero. And I thought Layla as an avatar, like that was awesome. I thought that whole segment was fun. Yeah, those are the highlights.
And that's it.
And cut.
Lisa.
So I had questions after this episode was over. Like, what? And then, what? Again? Because I still don't fully understand what any of that was. Like you guys are both saying, there are positives to this episode. I think that maybe one of the issues was that this would have done much better as a movie, because with a movie, they would have been forced to have had an actual conclusion instead of leaving it so ambiguous like they did with the series. Yes. I think that might have, in the long run, been a misstep to have done this. But again, there's good stuff here. We get some good Mark moments, good Steven moments. It is cool that Layla gets to be an avatar finally and not for Konshu. But overall, I was hoping for more finality in this finale, and we just didn't get it. So let's jump in and talk about all the weirdness that happened to us.
I think you said it perfectly. That was my first thought when it ended was, why was this not a movie?
Yeah.
It would have made much more sense to be a movie.
Especially throwing in like Godzilla King Kong battle at the end. Like, we'll get there. I guess let's start at the top. This episode did start relatively exactly like we talked about thinking it would start, with okay, we know what happened to Mark and Steven, so like let's dive into what's happening while that happens. I think that the only part of this open that I genuinely enjoyed was when Harrow's staff turns into an axe. I was like, man, why didn't he have that the whole time? The axe looks way cooler than that staff. I did also want to note that throughout the episode, the staff, so originally had his cane, that's what it was, and it had two alligator heads sticking out on either side, right? And so when it turned into a battle axe for some unknown reason, we don't really know why, one of the mouths just like weirdly opens and morphs into a blade, and then the other alligator head gets bigger. Randomly throughout the episode, that alligator head would have an open mouth in one scene and a closed mouth in another scene. And I didn't know if it was on purpose or if it was something that maybe was cut out of the episode, and so like we just didn't know that, like, oh, when its mouth was open, he could shoot laser beams out of it. When it was closed, it was a stat. Like I don't know. They didn't explain that.
The only thing I could
Or
explain around that is it seemed like the fight between Harrow and Moon Knight was kind of mimicking the actual gods fighting.
mhm.
So I wonder if it had it was just kind of like same things.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly was like, it was a mistake. Like, I'm
But
sure that there was some reason behind it, and then they just ran out of time, so they never
Mhm,
went with that reason, but they still had them. So they
mhm.
were just like, all right, time to shoot this fight scene. Someone have this axe, and they're like, yeah, here, it's this one.
I kind of want to go back and revisit just the end credits for each episode because I did notice in the end credits for this one it was the axe.
Mm-hmm.
So I that was one maybe minor detail. Like, was it morphing into the axe through every end credit, or was it always the axe?
I
I can't remember.
No, I think it was always the his normal walking stick.
See, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, I think this was the first one that it was the
Hmm.
axe.
Since this episode is so very, very short, maybe there was a deleted scene that explained that.
Yeah, that's
There's
what I
gotta
kept.
be.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and again, like, why was it so short? It was only like what the runtime was 43 minutes, so the episode
Yeah,
itself was
I mean,
probably
Yeah, going back to like what we
38.
said earlier, like just with the shorter episodes and only 6 episodes, a 2-hour movie probably could have been a better route to go, or they should have made this like 10 episodes.
yeah, yeah. I
Not
mean, with
rushed it.
what they dragged out in the first couple episodes, I feel like they could have sacrificed that to make the ending longer. So I definitely agree that a movie would have made more sense because they wouldn't have had so much fluff on the front end and they could have dragged the conclusion out. But I don't know. We'll get there. I was interested. So basically, a bunch of nonsense happens. Harrow is able to release Amit, who, even though, right, this is the god that's all about, like, oh, is your soul unbalanced? Then you're dead. She admittedly says, Harrow, your soul's unbalanced, but maybe that's good. You can be my avatar. Makes no sense.
She has
100%.
double standards. She's like, I need you to do the murder
Right.
for a few more decades. And then you can die.
Yeah. So she decides to make him her avatar. Then immediately it's okay, let's go destroy Cairo. It's interesting that, like, I think the line is literally like, let's start with Cairo and then the world. Like, so do they have to do it like one city at a time?
Right?
That seems like it would take a really long time.
Maybe just
Yeah,
since it's the followers, they have to go different places.
It's essentially like it's almost like a zombie virus, right? Because they're got to go person to person to see like, are you one of us or not?
Right.
And it's just that's how it spreads.
It just seems like it's like them painting the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Like you would start in Cairo and you'd work your way around the entire world, and once you got to the other end, you just have to go back to Cairo. I mean, more people are going to be born, right? So I don't know. That just seems ridiculous. Like, I feel like there's a flaw in that plan. So having said that, they leave, and Layla is able to kind of like sneak along with them. Now they get stopped by a like police patrol blockade or whatever, and Harrow, lifts his now battle axe up in the air, and it sucks everybody's soul out who's not balanced. I wanted to note that it's interesting that Layla is with them this whole time and is not affected by that. So I guess we can go into this assuming that she's balanced. It never really comes up again, but
yeah, right.
I felt like that was an important part, that like, oh, she's there and he just did that and she's still alive, so clearly she's cool. But again, just another red herring in this episode. So Tauret, who is now relaying her message through dead bodies, which I thought was interesting. It's funny. Is able to basically relay to Layla that Mark is alive. So, I mean, yeah, we knew that, right? Like watching, we were like, there's no way Mark's dead. He's coming back. Okay. Layla learns he's coming back. Okay. She decides she's going to follow them into Cairo. I feel like Layla doesn't understand, and I get that it's for like plot's sake, but it's like she doesn't understand the danger of being with them. Like, why would you go to the city where they're about to like destroy everything and kill everyone?
To move the story along.
Yeah, just to be there. Like, that's the only reason she goes is just to be there.
Yeah, so much about that just didn't feel right, because it's like things that probably would have happened traditionally in like maybe a 15-30 minute span, it was like condensed into 2 minutes.
Yeah. They just were like, well, we need you here, so you're here now.
Yeah.
And even when prior to this, she's able to release Konshu. I don't really understand why she didn't release other gods, maybe, to like help.
Yeah, she could have just gone kind of happy-go-lucky with it and just watch. She could have just had her arms like with all the statues, just breaking them all like, best of luck, y'all.
Well, what if they were super bad? I mean, they got put into the tiny statues because they did something wrong. Khonshu's was only like, it was a big wrong, but also a baby wrong. Like, because he moved stars. That's not cool. But it's also, it doesn't necessarily hurt anybody, but these other things might have really hurt people. And so she's just like knocking them off willy-nilly like she's a little kid in the cereal aisle. They might raise all kinds of Hades.
Hey, we're in the multiverse. Anything can happen.
Look, we're not even sure if this whole series happened. Let's be honest.
True. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Well, and on the note of her, not destroying other ones, I still don't really understand Khonshu's plan in that moment, being released and then immediately being like, well, I can take on Amit by myself, even though the like 4 most powerful Egyptian gods couldn't do anything. And why is the one, like the guy who's Osiris, I assume, he's the only one that has powers of the ones that we've seen, you know what I mean, the avatars or whatever. Like every time he does his little like hand thing and like little lightning bolts happen, and nobody else does anything. They just kind of walk around.
Budget.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see definitely where the budget went by the end of this episode. I don't know. That whole thing and the whole like them explaining how if they're able to like capture Amit and transfer Amit into Harrow's body, then she'll be vulnerable. And it's like, why didn't you guys do that to begin with? Why did you put him in the stone statues instead? I don't know. There's just so many weird things that they do to just put a finality to things.
Except not.
Yeah. It's strange.
Like, okay, the one other thing that really I just needed more depth to was like Mark leaving everything. It's just kind of like, I don't want to be at the field of reeds anymore. Okay, let's just turn around and all of a sudden you're out. Like, it's that easy.
You're out, like, and right next to Steven.
Yeah. Like, I thought we were going to get a little bit more there because, I thought the whole point was like, well, there's only one gate where you can get through, and that God isn't going to like it. So I was expecting more there to try to, it's almost like you have to prove yourself that you need to go back and do this.
But I still don't understand, because Tauret literally said when they're going to the gate, your hearts need to be balanced before we get to the gate. The second Mark's heart was balanced, he transports to the field of reeds, and then Tauret is like, if you leave the field of reeds, you can never come back. the plan was never to go to the Field of Reeds. The plan was literally they were on the way to the gate so that he could be resurrected. I don't understand why there's like this weird side thing.
It seemed like it's the instant that your heart is balanced, you're just going to automatically go there. There's probably no changing that course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then in that case, what's the point of Tauret
helping
them
them go
across
back
the river or the sand? If you're just going to teleport there anyway.
She probably still understands. Like, she tells him that this is the peace he's been chasing his entire life. So she's like, I understand if you decide to not go and do this other thing, now that you're finally here where you can rest and have sanctuary. So she's like, I'm just throwing it out there. I know you have this other plan, and I know that Steven is out in the middle of a scary desert, but just so you know.
I don't know. That all seems so forced. The same with when Mark was talking to Steven, and he was like, when I was in the Field of Reeds, like, I almost accepted it, and it was like, no, you didn't. Like, we all knew that you were coming back. Like, why even waste our time with that? That was 5 minutes that you could have spent more on the end of this episode than this weird, like, I don't know.
Is this just Reeds?
Yeah, exactly. What's he gonna do out there?
Right.
Well, so basically he goes and he's able to save Steven with a heartfelt chat, and he puts the heart in his hand, and then all of a sudden the sand disappears. That whole thing was nice.
Mm-hmm.
I like this, like, him coming to terms with Steven and learning how to, like, be friends with Steven and share the body with Steven, but I don't know. It was too much for me.
Well, then it is fairly comic accurate, minus the fact that there's a third personality there and they have to all agree with one another. It's like they didn't want to do that with this, which is...
He calls Steven his superpower.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the whole episode. And I was like, but your suit is all... Okay. It was really sweet.
It is. And I'm glad that they're friends. But through that, now we can get to my redeeming moment for this episode, which was... all I wrote was God fight. Because we get to see... let's be honest, slightly rough CGI work in this episode, but there was a lot of it. Between Moon Knight flying through the air in his cape and giant gods fighting in the background, it was wild. It was like Transformers and Godzilla vs. King Kong and Batman all fell into the same 43-minute show.
The angles on a lot of that were very misleading, like because it seems like they were just getting bigger and bigger, like frame by frame, right? Like just the way they did the camera angles. Like because initially, like Konshu's, they're large beings, but they're not. It's almost like double the size of just like Mark, like the average human. But it just seems like the further we went along, the bigger they got.
Yeah, and it wasn't explained. It's just like all of a sudden they could grow to the size of the pyramid. But then I feel like it suffered from... Did you guys see, Godzilla vs. King Kong?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This suffered from the same thing that movie did, where they couldn't figure out how big they were. So in one scene, Godzilla would tower over every building in the entire city, and then in the next scene Kong would throw Godzilla into a building that was taller than him, and you were like, hold on, how big are they? What are you talking about? Like a second ago he was giant. And I feel like that's what this episode did, where it's like sometimes they were giant and then other times they were big, they were like building size. So it was like, just, I don't know, stop doing that in movies. Like, just
make
decide.
Things to scale.
Yeah. Pick what they're going to be and keep them.
I will say there is one particular moment where the gods are fighting kind of in the background, but just the way they shot it, I was just like, okay, you can bring in like the Watchmen. Like it looks perfect in terms of like there could be something cool going on, but you could see like the Watchmen in the background just observing everything. So they should be able to do that, I think, in the live action shows, and I hope they do. I
did notice that it looked like Amit grew as she started eating the souls, which I never connected that was what was going to happen to the souls when whenever the person died, that she's just going to gobble all of them. I thought that they would just, die and go away and not her consume their energy and grow up tall as a pyramid. But
also that's not how she works. Like she judges the souls, and then if they're deemed unworthy or whatever, then she has like a jackal monster that eats them. She doesn't eat them. So I thought that was weird.
Why couldn't we get that? Because yeah, exactly. Just that whole scene moment, we've seen that before in other films. There wasn't anything super like new or it's just kind of like that was kind of one of those letdown moments. Like, yeah.
We did jump over my favorite line from the entire series, though, which is "Woohoo Hippo."
Oh yeah, I wrote that one down.
I thought that was a lot of fun when Tauret comes to save them from the giant sandstorm that's gonna swallow them up. That was my favorite line. So, kind of moving through the god fight, we do get Layla, who has agreed to become the sort of avatar, like sometimes
she said limited is like, or what did she say? Like more or less saying
temporary,
like
maybe.
Yeah,
temporary. Yeah, temporary.
I thought it was interesting to see
her talk to zombies.
Yes, but also it was funny to see her. Like, let's break this down. This is like a little outside of the content, but seeing Oscar Isaac in that scene where where Konshu was taking over his body to talk, versus seeing the actress that plays Layla, it was like two very different ideas of what it would be like if a god was speaking through you. It's like when Konshu is talking through Mark, and maybe it's just because like Mark and Konshu have been together for a long time, so like he understands how it feels, maybe, I don't know, but it seems more surprising and less painful. And when Tauret was speaking through Layla, it was like she was like doubling over in pain. She couldn't breathe.
Right.
It was very, I was like, I don't know if this was like her decision of like how you think you would talk if a god was speaking through you, or if that was like what they scripted her to do.
Hard to say. That was weird. That whole moment was very strange. Yeah.
Tauret's personality is so cute, though.
Yeah. I love how she was like, I have the perfect outfit.
Are we going to talk about the outfit? Because I feel like we have to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because, like, I don't like it. And, like, whenever it popped up, I was like, what in the spirit Halloween is she wearing? It literally looks like they didn't even, like, steam it or anything. It's all wrinkly-fied. And then she goes, like, and it's got all the feathers. It's like, whoa! I still don't like it. But at least it has feathers.
Yeah, the feathers and the swords are the best part.
Yeah. So that whole scene, that's what I saw this morning.
Oh.
That's what was spoiled.
Oh, that kind of sucks, yeah.
And I was like, oh, man.
Way to go, Twitter.
The second redeeming factor of this episode.
So she is now Scarlet Scarab.
Oh, is that?
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. That's a cool name.
Yeah. Which the little nods around it, because, it's one of those things like Scarlet Scarab. I was looking into this character and the comics that she's in, and definitely has some moments with Thor, which is cool. But yeah, it's like there's been like the clues for her throughout this whole series that I never picked up on. Like her father would call her Little Scarab, Konshu called her Little Bug.
Yeah.
You know, just picking up the scarab, like it was kind of leading. I was like, okay, that's cool.
I did think it was funny that it was very Batman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
like that's all.
right?
That's all I could see when they were doing their big fight. I was like, this is just Wonder Woman and Batman fighting a bunch of people while two gods fight in the background.
Yeah.
Hooray.
But, you know, I was all for it. I thought the action moments were really cool. And like I said, I do like Layla being a superhero. And it's one of those things like initially, you know, she just didn't want to do that. Like she was very anti, you know, because she's just witnessing like what she believes like she thinks Mark was kind of going crazy because of Konshu when there's a lot of other factors going there. But I think she's fearful that the same thing would happen to her. But it seemed like it was growing on her.
Yeah. And I did, you know, I get that we kind of have to have this disbelief watching something like this, but I want to know more about Layla's background because, like, A, how'd she learn to fight?
Right.
B, how'd she learn to fight with wings and swords and this crazy superpower? Like, I don't know. I get that it was kind of more.
It's very Falcon-esque. It's like,
yeah.
Could they potentially tie in? Did she work with Falcon in any way and get training? I don't, you know. There's a lot of moments like that, you know, utilizing these wings as shields to block bullets and
which as soon as she did that, I was like, oh man, how cool would it be if Captain Falcon flew in here and or like you know, she said something about him, like seeing that on TV. Like if Mark was like, how'd you do that? And she's like, oh, I saw somebody do it in the Avengers or something. I don't know, like any sort of reference. We still never got anyone. Nobody ever showed up from the Marvel Universe. Like, which is fine. They don't have to. But at the same time, I appreciate it because it solidifies that you guys aren't like going to do this and then in 6 months be like, never mind. That didn't count. I don't know.
Let's talk about the when Mark Steven first see her in the outfit because the change there was just like, oh, Team Steven. He was just like, whoa.
You look amazing. He's so sweet.
Steven was awesome this episode.
Yeah.
All around. He reminded me very much of Daredevil. I just finished reading the Daredevil series Back in Black. And so the second that he pulled out his batons and started swinging around and throwing them, I was like, Daredevil. This is so much like Daredevil. I hope we get more cool Steven moments in the future.
So is their marriage just like all the way fixed now? Because like he died?
You know, that just was glazed over. They never brought that back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
The three of them seem very happy together.
Yeah. Well, really, I felt that's what lacked is like what really is happened or is going to happen between Mark and Layla. Like there was zero time spent at the end concluding that in any reasonable way.
Or like, is Layla staying Tauret's?
Yeah, like what's Layla's next plan? Yeah.
Yeah, they just literally after the fight, Layla is gone. Yeah. Like
not a part of the episode anymore. If there's anything they're setting up, it's going to be a Scarlet Scarab series.
I can see that more than anything. I'm really enjoying seeing all the upcoming stuff for Disney and Marvel, and I think that they are leaning really heavy on the female heroes, which is cool and exciting. There are a bunch of really cool female heroes. So I would not be surprised if the next time that we see Moon Knight, it's in a Scarlet Scarab series rather than like Moon Knight season 2.
And that, you know, as long as they're setting up some cool stuff, like go for it, 100%. I can see that. But I'm down. I'm down if they do a Scarlet Scarab because definitely give Layla more of the backstory we really needed. And lead up to,
I have an idea
Mm-hmm.
of what I think would be cool if they did. Um, I think. I mean, we can talk about it once we get to the end because it has to do with
Sure.
the end credit scene. But I have an idea of what I would like to see them do with Layla, and I was kind of leaning that direction too, like giving her her own series instead of doing like a Moon Knight season 2.
Mm-hmm.
But to get there, we can talk about how everyone is beat, all seems lost, and then Mark blacks out, and he wakes up, and everyone is dead or beat up, and Layla's confused. She's like, "What was that?" Mark is confused. Steven's confused, and yet no one seems worried. You know,
Yeah.
I don't. What is the like? Okay, Steven was freaking out when he would black out and wake up and realize that like Mark was taking over his body. Mark kind of freaked out that one time that Steven took over the body and Mark blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
How was nobody worried that like both of them blacked out and something happened that neither one of them did, and there's no connection made that, oh, there must be a third personality. Instead, they're just like, well, that was crazy. Okay, we got to get Harrow into the tomb so that we can seal away Amit. It's like, you're not even gonna like talk about it for a second.
Yeah.
Guess
I
they're
mean,
too
I get they
busy to
didn't have
talk.
time.
I'll hold this thought until we get to the end. Yeah.
Maybe at some point you just get desensitized to like whipping out extra personalities. And apparently your spouse does too. Just like, what was that? I don't know. We're not, okay, we got other stuff to worry about right now. Let's go.
Right. Yeah, let's just go do this. Let's not talk about the fact that you somehow broke out of almost dying and killed everybody around us and saved us all and knocked out Harrow. It's all cool. It's all good. It's obvious. I wrote who took over because I kept thinking they were going to explain it earlier than they did.
Yeah.
But they waited. So, okay, whatever. We got another Laters Gators. Love me a Laters Gators line of the series.
I feel like we're gonna see some swag for that coming out soon.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah. I want a Laters Gators shirt, but it's Loki alligator.
Oh yes.
Okay, so they suck Amit into Harrow. All seems good.
Some of that I feel like I needed more explanation.
Yes,
It's
because
kind
it
of
doesn't
like,
make
what are y'all
sense.
really doing? Like, y'all, what's the plan? Like, okay, you're gonna do this, but what's happened next?
But also, like, they can if they take the god and instead of shrinking the god into a statue and keeping them in a room where all it takes is someone to knock them over for them to come back, instead they can take the god and shove them in a human, and then if you kill that human, the god's dead. That seems like a wild 180 from lock them up as rocks in a room. Like,
and how are they not dead when their rock breaks? Like what? I'm so confused.
None of it makes sense.
And it's like, I don't get it. It's just so hard. Like, it's one of those things of like, well, if they really wanted certain gods gone, could they do the same spell while they're in a statue and transfer them into a human and just
sounds easier.
The lore is either way too deep or really, really shallow.
I think it's just very convenient.
Yeah.
How convenient.
Well, once the dust settles, as they say, we wind up back in the asylum, and I don't understand that. Because are we to assume that Mark and Steven are like drifting in between being dead and not being dead? Because they've already established that the asylum was limbo, basically.
Yeah. Not.
Like, that didn't make sense to me, because then it was like, well, hold on. So are we supposed to believe that, like, Harrow did create this weird limbo that he was in? And so when they captured Harrow and were gonna decide whether they're gonna kill him or not, like, that it put them back in this limbo? Like, I don't know. It didn't make... I don't know why they did that. It was confusing for no reason. Like, there was no need for that confusion.
Yeah. Yep.
Then he gets out. Then that's pretty much it. Then the episode ends. I feel like none of the things that you wanted to be wrapped up were wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
And the bad guy was just sort of like, all right, that was it, all good, we got him, we stopped him. Even though they like explained, like, hey, if you don't kill him, you know, Amit's still alive in there. Yeah, it's all good, we're gonna put him in his own asylum. Like, what?
And we can only speculate or guess that, like, all of the followers at some point had the same powers. They were just grabbing people and saying, "Are you balanced?" Like, can they still do that, or is that just...
And does like Harrow
what happened
have
to
power?
them?
Does Amit have powers?
Yeah.
Or is she just stuck in it? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So then the credits rolled, and it was, I wouldn't say obvious, but it was very expected that there would be an end credit scene, which sure enough there was, which starts with Harrow, who is now in an asylum. And so it was like, oh, okay, I get it. But also, I had a moment where I was like, wait, so is he dead? But no, he's not. We see some, some black gloved hands tap him on the shoulder or whatever. And immediately I was like, oh, Jake Lockley, right? Like, there's literally no one else that it could be, because it doesn't make sense that someone would come and rescue him from this place. Like, so, okay. Then, we don't see the person's face, but he's pushing Harrow out of the building, and you see a bunch of dead doctors laying around. And so then it was like, okay, maybe it's not Jake Lockley, because, like, why would Moon Knight come in here and kill a bunch of innocent doctors,
right,
just to get to Harrow? Gets outside, opens this stretch limo door, and immediately you can see it's Oscar Isaac. Like, there's no hiding it. Even though they try to do a reveal later that's supposed to surprise you, but it's like, well, it doesn't surprise me because I saw his face. He literally leans forward in front of the camera and you see his face. That's Oscar Isaac. So I don't know what they were doing with that. But then, Konshu's in the car. He's dressed all nicely in a suit, which, interesting. I wonder if he can just, like, manifest whatever clothing he wants. Or did he have
I think that's what he commonly wears in the comics.
Yeah, in the comics he does wear a suit, but I just figured they got rid of that for this. But basically, Konshu has, like, a weird conversation with Harrow, and then is like, "Oh, meet my friend. His name's Jake Lockley," and sure enough, it's Oscar Isaac. I was about to call him Mark Spector, but it's not Mark Spector. It's Jake Lockley. And he pulls out a silenced pistol and he says something in Spanish, I believe.
Vaya con Dios.
Is that what it is? Spanish?
Was it Spanish?
It is Spanish, because it said on my closed captions that he was speaking Spanish. Okay. But I was too surprised by the fact that he was speaking Spanish to read a translation of what he was saying.
Why didn't they give him the Jake Lockley, like, mustache and, like, scruff?
Or like I was expecting like a, I don't know, like a New York cabbie accent.
Right.
Like, I don't know, I was not expecting him to just speak Spanish.
Right.
Yeah, Lockley doesn't sound like a particularly Spanish name.
And so then he just shoots Harrow. Well, I mean, I guess we assume, right? We didn't see Harrow get shot, but we assume that he shoots Harrow, and then that's the
As
end.
people are walking right by the car.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a silence. It's
Yeah.
this is the
It's
thing that blows my
silence,
mind.
but still.
It's silence, but it somehow lights up enough to show flashes through all of the tinted windows. But yeah, so he presumably kills Harrow, and that's the end of the episode. Then the car drives away. Now, back to my first question: why? Why would Moon Knight? Because all of Jake, Mark, and Steven are all Moon Knight. I mean, I guess in this case, Moon Knight could be considered like its own thing, but we've already seen that Moon Knight's outfit changes based on who is in control. So
Yeah.
I don't think that Moon Knight is going to be a version of Mark. Why would he just kill the doc? Like, what was the point of killing the doctors? That seemed pointless to me. He just killed the doctors to kill the doctors. I don't know. I don't buy that.
Yeah. But yeah, like the whole like final, dialogue from Konshu was just kind of like it's kind of like they wanted to lead everyone along from the beginning that the whole point was to get rid of Mark and get Layla as his avatar. But he's kind of like, you think I wanted Layla? No, I never wanted her. I've got who I want.
I think if they had left, and again, we didn't see the body, so we don't know that Harrow is dead. It's safe to assume. But it feels like they made this as a one series thing.
Right.
Like they opened and closed, the villain started alive, did his villain thing, got stopped, and then was killed. End of story. They didn't set up another villain. So my theory going forward is that they are going to make a Scarlet Scarab series, and the villain is going to be Jake Lockley. And so we're going to get this like Moon Knight is a good guy, but he is going about things in the wrong way, and he's like killing people, and he's gonna have like the Spider-Man conundrum, right? Of like, I should stop people but not kill people. So I think that maybe that will be Layla's villain for the Scarlet Scarab series. I'm sure they'll throw in some other like comic book villain, but I feel like the storyline is going to be more about her, and maybe that's why we didn't see any sort of resolution between her and Mark, and that will be the like leading plot line of that series, that like she's trying to understand Mark and Steven, but then there's this other guy, Jake Lockley, who's like out there killing people and is crazy. If we do get that, I hope he has a crazy cool looking suit. I hope it's like wild, like Venom-esque or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Met Gala looking suit.
Yeah.
So,
like thinking back on this ending, I think would have been potentially could have been more intriguing is having a similar setup. Like it could have still been Harrow leaving this hospital in a limo, but have it be Midnight Man. Like actually see the person that's rolling him away, but like, who is this? Gets in the limo and set it up to like, I'm breaking you out. I'm doing this stuff now. Like I'm Midnight Man. Like I need you to help me.
I think that
Boom,
would be
season 2.
Like that's even. Yeah, I feel like I agree. Like I think that that's a better ending because this just seems so final. Like
yeah.
They didn't set this up to get into the MCU. They didn't set this up for a second season that would make sense. I mean, yeah, they could do a second season where it's like Moon Knight dealing with Jake Lockley being another part of him, but it's like we already saw that. That's this entire season was Mark and Steven learning how to work together. So another season of Mark and Steven having to learn to work with Jake Lockley, like that's just, it's going to be repetitive. We've already seen that.
We don't need that.
So I don't know what they're doing with this, other than potentially setting Layla up for her own series.
Yeah,
Like,
it feels like that's what they did. Now, did either of you look at the comic, the QR code?
No, I didn't even
for
see
this
one.
one, no.
Yeah, QR code was in the hospital. It's on the wall. It is a Moon Knight issue where he fights Kang.
Okay.
Or
Interesting.
meets Kang. Maybe not fight. Maybe he fights Kang. But anyway, I don't know. Is that leading potentially that maybe we'll see Moon Knight again with fighting Kang?
In Quantumania?
Potentially in Quantumania, maybe.
I feel like that's a... If it is what that is, I feel like that's a lame way to set that up.
Yeah.
Like, not even having him, like, run into Scott Lang or anything in the series. Like, I don't know. Just to be like, ooh, the comic was leading you to the fact that he's in Quantumania. It's like, you had an entire season that you could have thrown in something to be like, oh, he's going to show up in Quantumania. They didn't even do the thing they've been doing where the season ends and they're like, so-and-so will return or anything like that. So, I don't know. This seemed like they were testing the waters with a relatively unknown superhero, and if it did well, maybe they'll do more of these unknown superheroes stories. If it didn't do well, then all right, we know we won't do that again. I don't know.
They could even kept it like mysterious and like had it like rotate through all the different personalities and then just left a question mark, like question mark will return.
See, yeah, that would be better than what we got, which was relatively nothing. I don't know. But yeah, so that was Moon Knight, the series. Any final thoughts on this episode?
I need more of like the Batman-esque fighting because like one of my favorite scenes was when Moon Knight used his like I don't even know what you call them, his little moon blades, but used it like a grappling type hook or something. Like that was so cool. Like I want more of that.
Yeah, I do wish that we got more moon gadgets.
Yeah,
moonerangs.
Moonerangs. Yeah.
And like what he can fly?
He can fly.
Okay, that is not in the comics. He cannot fly in the comics.
It's
he can glide, and he has a little bat jet that is in the shape of a moon.
See,
where's that? Give me that. Yeah. Don't tell me that he can hover off the ground and just.
I mean, is all of that
fly.
kind of funded through like Spectre?
I believe his gadgets and stuff, that's where not Crawley, who's the guy we talked about? He was in his phone. It's in my notes somewhere. He has like a gadget guy. That,
okay. I remember us talking about that, yeah.
And that's where he gets all that stuff. Which, like, I'm all for that. Give me that. Give me cool bat gadgets. Don't just all of a sudden he has superpowers. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm fine with him having like the suit that heals him and all that stuff, but I don't know. I feel like they got away from themselves with a couple things.
Yeah.
Jean-Paul Ducamp. French.
That's right. That's right.
But all in all, I mean, it was a fun series. It has its ups, its downs.
Yeah.
It has the one really dark, depressing episode. It has some lighter episodes. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I think if they say Moon Knight Season 2, I'll be like, what? About what? Like, is it going to matter that we watched Moon Knight Season 1? This seems, I don't know. I think I would be more excited if they announced a Scarlet Scarab series. But.
Well, where may they do that?
Is it D23 time again?
Ooh, good question.
Well, I think he's leaning more towards the multiverse that we're about to step
Yeah.
into, full of madness, which, as of this recording, comes out tomorrow. As of you all listening to this, comes out tonight. So,
Or this afternoon.
yeah, this afternoon. Yeah, I forget that it keeps coming back earlier and earlier. And earlier.
Oh yeah, we're getting like, I think the early show tomorrow's like 3 p.m.
Yeah, it is. We were having to look for it.
Yeah. I don't know if I can swing that, but I'm gonna try.
Well, yeah, definitely don't miss when we dive into the Multiverse of Madness. But for now, any good one-liners?
When you said what is the problem with Kong versus Godzilla, literally what I thought in my brain, first thought was, it's not as good as Kong Skull Island. And so that's the only one liner I can come up with is, it's not as good as Kong Skull Island.
I think that's a good way to end this series, yeah. So we'll see you all next week.
Laters, Gators.
God! What? Oh my God.